Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be doing another video request, and this time it was making a pushable object. As you can see in front of me, we have this wall here, and if you interact with it, you can see you can push it outwards, and when you've pushed it far enough, you can pass through, and you can push it multiple directions, and you can change the settings accordingly as the force, item scale, and just your typical mesh setup. So let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is making the blueprint for the pushable object. For that, I'm just making a new blueprint class, actor, and I'm calling it BP underscore pushable object. And then afterwards we can open it. In the components, I'm adding a static mesh. And then afterwards, I'm going straight into the construction script, getting out my static mesh, and then I'm calling set static mesh. This is just to make life a bit more easier, so I don't have to go in every setting to change it. I'll just make variables, I can easily adjust them, so it keeps it a bit more modular. For the new mesh, I'm promoting it to a variable. I'm calling this mesh. Then I'm making it instant editable so I can edit it. Copying over my static mesh again, then calling set scale 3D. Set the relative scale 3D. For this, I'm also making it a variable. And I'm calling it item scale. Compile. Make sure to set it to 1 on each axis. And then we can compile this. Event graph is fairly simple. Just in case, I'm getting my static mesh, calling set simulate physics, and then turning it off. By default, it is off. Just in case, I always do this just so I don't have any issues with it. It's a preference pretty much. The next variable we're going to add is force, which will be of type float. And we're not going to use this here, we're going to use this later. Also important in the static mesh, this is some default settings I have for all the pushable objects. I'm locking the rotation for X, Y, and Z. And then for lock position is only the Z, so it doesn't go upwards. If you do want it to go upwards, make sure to have it unchecked. And then for linear damping, I'm using 10, same for angular. And then for the mass, I try to keep it 0 or like 10, and then adjust my force based on this mass. So if it's a higher number, you have to apply a higher force, of course. And this is all we got to do in the blueprint here. Next up is the character, and I don't have any interaction system set up. It's just a basic third-person character where I move the camera forward and remove the skeletal mesh. So if you go to third-person, input, actions, I'm going to make a new action. Input action, call this IA underscore interact, and then opening it. I don't think it needs any settings. And then going to IMC default, and then adding the newly made interact here. I'm only going to use keyword for this, so I'm just going to bind app for now. And then straight into the character here. And I'm going to call interact, IA underscore interact. Perfect. So, on started, I'm going to immediately branch it off. Dragging out the condition, making it to a variable. I'm going to call this is pushing. Oh, looks like I already have it made here. So I can delete this one and then attach this. It is important after you compile, make sure that it's false. This should be false by default because we're going on a false path here. So if you're not pushing the object currently, it doesn't, if it's true by default, you can never push it. So make sure it's false, and then we'll go off the false path here and then call sphere trace by channel. Move it a bit out of here. Then we're going to get my camera. And then we're going to get world location. And then we're going to drag this immediately in the start. And then I'm going to get world rotation. From world rotation, I'm going to get my forward vector. And then we're going to multiply it. And the multiply is for the the range of when you can interact with an object. I have it rarely close to me, so I don't go higher than 400. So I do like 350, so it's kind of in the middle of what I normally do. And then we're gonna add it to my world location. And this I'm gonna add it to the end. And for radius, this is the sphere radius. I'm gonna do 10. And then I'm gonna go out here, branch it on the return value, making sure we've hit something. Then I'm gonna, for out hit, I'm gonna not branch it, I'm gonna break it. For some reason it doesn't let me type. There you go, break hit result. Then I'm gonna get my hit actor, I'm gonna cast to BP pushable object. Close this up, and then on true. If it's true, which means we've hit the pushable object, otherwise it's fulfill, we can then get our is pushing and set it to true, which means the object is moving now. I'm gonna get static mesh right here. I'm gonna set simulate physics, set it to true here. And then I'm gonna add impulse. And making sure we're attaching the static mesh here. And then for the impulse, once again, we're going to grab a camera and then get world rotation. And then once again, get forward vector. And then we're going to multiply this. And this time we're going to multiply by the force that we've made, the variable in the pushable object. So get force. Then we're going to multiply it here. And this is, we're going to attach this to the impulse. So depending on the force, that's how hard the impulse is going to be. And then afterwards, we're going to get static mesh again. So I'm just going to copy it here. Reroute node. Make sure it's a bit straight. And from here, we're going to use a get triggerable delay. Move this out a bit. And then for the static mesh, I'm going to get component velocity. Why I'm doing this is optional. When I'm pushing my object, I don't want the player to spam the blueprint, which means if you spam it, it's gonna keep shooting out. So you can only interact with it when it's stopped moving. So when the velocity is 0. So for that, I'm gonna get an is node or equal, and then this should be 0, and then this is a tolerance. So depending on your damping or the friction it has, it can take really long before it hits exactly 0. So the tolerance keeps you make sure it's not like exactly 0. So the tolerance can be like, oh, when it's like around 10, it then just resets it. I'm just gonna do like 20 and then add this on the branch. Move this a bit more up so it's not in the way here. Now on completed, which means if it's true, that means it stopped moving. So we can set is pushing to false. And then we can copy simulate physics. And then we're going to turn the simulate physics off, which means you can no longer bump the item. You can only interact with it. So it's never moving when you bump it, pretty much. So we're going to get a reroute node here. Attach this. And then when it's false, which means the object is not, it's still moving, we're going to get a reroute node and assign it to the retriggerable delay. So we have like a loop that keeps going until it stops moving. Making sure it's attached here. For some reason it's not letting me attach it. Now it is. Making a nice loop. And then for the duration, I'm going to do like a 1 second duration here. Perfect. Now in theory, this should already work, so we can test it. All we got to do is drag in the pushable object. As of now, it doesn't have any mesh, so we can just call cube. Noticing my scale is not instant editable, same as the force. I'm just going to make this a bit more smaller here. Same for the height, a bit more. It's the same as the walls. And then the width a bit more, so it's the full length. And a bit higher. And then for the force, I'm just going to do a higher number so you can see if it works already. And then when I interact with it, you can see it's moving. And when I look up, it doesn't fly up, it's only limited to where I look at, as you can see. And also a great way to make puzzles like this. So yeah, that's a simple pushable object you can make. And yeah, you can make different variations of it. If you want to have different setups, you can just make child blueprint classes of it and make different variations of it. So yeah, hope you liked it, and see you in the next video.